Mr. Peanutbutter's Booze is an incredibly fun and creatively structured episode of BoJack Horseman on the surface. The episode showcases Halloween night in 4 separate years, 1993, 2004, 2009, and 2018, as we see Mr. Peanutbutter attend BoJack's annual Halloween party, with a different significant other in tow for each year. Seeing these different nights so many years apart is a really engaging and funny way to see how these characters have and haven't changed over the course of 25 years. But digging a little deeper, it's also a fascinating look into Mr. Peanutbutter's love life and the people he's chosen to spend that life with. And examining the nature of these relationships' ups and downs, we can extrapolate a lot about Mr. Peanutbutter as a character.
I am not having fun!
The first year and Halloween party we visit chronologically is 1993. This was only about a year after Mr. Peanutbutter was cast in Mr. Peanutbutter's house, after wandering into the set of Untitled Horsin' Around ripoff and impressing the producers. So at this point, this kind of fame and celebrity is new to both Mr. Peanutbutter and Katrina, whom PB started dating before his success on Mr. Peanutbutter's house. And Katrina requests just one thing from her husband.
I am so excited to go to a real Hollywood party with my husband, the TV star. Just do me a favor and don't leave me alone, okay?
So Katrina asks something pretty simple of Mr. Peanutbutter to make her feel more comfortable at this first big Hollywood party that they're attending together. Of course, over the course of the evening, Mr. Peanutbutter struggles immensely to keep this promise.
Oh, hey, there you are!
Sweetheart, you disappeared while I was in the bathroom.
Now, I think it might be fair to say that asking him to never leave her side for the entirety of the party is maybe a bit of overkill, but Mr. Peanutbutter seems to understand exactly why it would make somebody uncomfortable.
No, please don't go talk to Erica.
Katrina, Erica doesn't know anybody else at this party. It would be rude to leave her all by herself.
So frustratingly, Mr. Peanutbutter shows that he fully understands the issue that Katrina has, but isn't applying that understanding to Katrina herself, instead using it as an excuse to talk to Erica. So unsurprisingly, the next time Mr. Peanutbutter sees Katrina, she tells him she wants to leave.
But this party is so fun!
It's not fun for me, because I don't know anyone here.
And even after this, Mr. Peanutbutter immediately leaves Katrina alone again. She literally keeps telling him over and over she's having a bad time, and he still cannot grasp the concept.
I guess time flies when you're having fun, right?
I am not having fun!
And as we'll see, this is sort of a recurring problem for Mr. Peanutbutter. He listens to the things that his partners have to say, assures them that he really understands what they're saying, and then nothing changes. It happens over and over again at this party, and it happens in his relationships after this as well.
I ask so little of you, and you never listen.
This party blow-up seems to have been a big turning point in Mr. Peanutbutter's relationship with Katrina. We only see one scene where they're together that takes place after this, a 1994 awards party. Katrina is off screen, but it's clear that she's moved on from Mr. Peanutbutter.
Okay, I gotta go. My wife's hand just disappeared into that busboy's pants. Treasure, sweetheart, we're in public!
When the pair of them start to work together again for Mr. Peanutbutter's gubernatorial campaign, it's so clear that the way she sees him has changed significantly. Obviously, so has Katrina nearly 25 years later, but it's also clear that she no longer has any real respect for Mr. Peanutbutter. Her entire aim is to use him as a government pawn to pass the legislation she wants to pass. This is really interesting to me because it shows that Katrina recognizes that Mr. Peanutbutter has a natural charisma and ability to connect with people. It's obviously something that she once saw in him as well, but her experience dating PB and subsequent change as a person over the following couple of decades leaves her feeling no real time to entertain Mr. Peanutbutter's nonsense. Of all of Mr. Peanutbutter's relationship woes, his experience with Jessica Biel might be the one that is the least his fault, but it's still an interesting exploration. Mr. Peanutbutter and Jessica Biel started dating sometime around 2004, and possibly a bit earlier. Biel was around 22 years old and relatively fresh off of her run as a regular in Seventh Heaven. En route to the party, Jessica also asks a single thing of Mr. Peanutbutter.
I'm not afraid of mummies, I just don't like them. Because of an incident from my past.
And to his credit, Mr. Peanutbutter scopes out the entire party to make sure that Jessica isn't traumatized by seeing a mummy. It's very thoughtful of him, but then Jessica reveals the actual source of this trauma. She said that she auditioned for the 1990 film The Mummy starring Brendan Fraser.
Something really traumatic happened.
Oh my god, what?
I didn't get the part.
But even despite this relatively absurd reason to be scared of mummies, Mr. Peanutbutter promises to keep them away from Jessica at the party. A promise that unfortunately his oversized notebook costume cannot accommodate.
I asked you to do one thing! Keep me away from mummies, and you couldn't even do that!
So, like I said, I have a hard time pinning the blame on this mishap on Mr. Peanutbutter himself, as I think anybody would. But I do think it represents another issue in Mr. Peanutbutter's life, and that is his choices in significant others. While he does have clear chemistry with many of them, some have just fundamental differences that are hard for them to move past. The next time we see PB and Jessica Biel's relationship chronologically is 3 years later in 2007, and it's clear their chemistry has changed dramatically. Jessica now is very judgmental towards Mr. Peanutbutter's career decisions and inability to turn down any new opportunity, no matter how small.
Why do you say yes to everything?
I just get excited by the possibilities. Ooh, look, a CD at a coffee shop? That is crazy. Buying it!
And while it is a bit judgmental of Jessica to criticize his career decisions like this, she maybe did have a point.
And my flip phone is blowing up with opportunities. Michael Vick made me a very strange offer.
Now, these disagreements, as well as Jessica's budding chemistry with Justin Timberlake, led to their breakup.
I can't be more fun than your ex-wives. It's too much pressure.
Obviously, Mr. Peanutbutter's relationship with Diane is the one we have the absolute most context for. They actually met before the end of his relationship with Jessica Biel in 2007, and the pair seemingly got together shortly after. This Halloween party takes place 2 years later in 2009 and showcases not only some important growth in Mr. Peanutbutter and Diane's understanding of one another, but also hints at some of the major conflicts that would come up later in their relationship. Before the party, it's clear that there are a handful of misconceptions that Mr. Peanutbutter has about Diane.
Every Halloween party I went to with one of my ex-wives, we'd get in a huge blowout. You are fun and easygoing, so there is no danger of that happening. I love that we both love parties.
Obviously, we know that this is not true for Diane, but essentially at this point, Mr. Peanutbutter is projecting his desires for how he wants Diane to be at parties onto her. And at this point in her life, she was not confident enough to let Mr. Peanutbutter down and tell him the truth. Instead, she took on the pressure and tried to be the fun, cool party girlfriend that he thought she was. Over the course of the evening, it becomes increasingly clear how uncomfortable Diane is at the party. She tries to stick it out for a while, but eventually confesses to Mr. Peanutbutter that she wants to leave.
Maybe we should go soon? There are so many famous people here. It's actually making me kind of anxious.
Diane makes it very clear that she's anxious and asks Mr. Peanutbutter if they can leave soon, but unfortunately, Mr. Peanutbutter just ignores this and instead presses her to go talk to BoJack, something that clearly makes her uncomfortable. And when she embarrasses herself in front of BoJack, she angrily confesses to Mr. Peanutbutter before they leave the party. Even after this outburst, the night seems to end in Mr. Peanutbutter understanding and acknowledging Diane's anxieties.
Now I know you don't like parties, so we will never have that argument again.
But obviously we know that Mr. Peanutbutter doesn't keep this promise. In season 2's After the Party, the pair of them get into a major blow-up because Mr. Peanutbutter gives her a massive surprise party after what, to Diane, was already a perfect and full birthday of events. And while their argument here was initially about something unrelated, it becomes very clear in their discussion after the party that she takes major issue with the way Mr. Peanutbutter blindsided her with the party. 8 years after they met, he should have known that Diane would not have loved a big surprise party. Diane has said time and time again that she doesn't like parties and that she doesn't like big grand gestures. And this wasn't the only time we see Mr. Peanutbutter spring a grand gesture or party on her. In season 1, Mr. Peanutbutter jumps on the news and claims he stole the D from the Hollywood sign for Diane, all to publicly profess his love for her. And when he apologizes for that, he proposes, only to immediately surprise her with press and a celebratory party. And of course, in season 4, he secretly installs a bell room, or a massive library in their new house, after she confesses that she always dreamed of one as a kid. Which, on paper, seems like a very kind thing to do. All of these things do. But in the context of Diane Nguyen, they represent Mr. Peanutbutter time and time again, refusing to acknowledge the things that she explicitly tells him she does not appreciate. The things that give her anxiety and put pressure on her. And after the bell room, the pair of them actually move forward with a divorce.
I'm having fun! This is fun for me!
Mr. Peanutbutter met Pickles shortly before the 2018 Halloween party at Aplenty, where Pickles works as a waitress. Over the course of the evening, Pickles starts to feel very insecure about her place in Mr. Peanutbutter's life, and feels pressure knowing that he's been to this party with so many different women over the years.
Oh yeah, man, you brought so many wives and girlfriends to these parties I cannot keep track.
Which is made worse when Diane shows up for unrelated reasons and adds to the pressure that Pickles is feeling. Mr. Peanutbutter continues to bring up his previous relationships and actually tries to unpack some of the patterns patterns he's seen in those relationships, the same ones we're unpacking right now, which obviously just adds to that aforementioned pressure for Pickles.
Oh, we're talking about your exes again. That's great.
Of course, Jessica used to be fun too.
And Mr. Peanutbutter talking about how much fun his exes were and how they stopped dating because they weren't fun anymore puts even more pressure on Pickles to just continue to be fun, even though she's obviously struggling to process everything she's learning over the evening. Fortunately, Mr. Peanutbutter actually recognizes this and tells Pickles that he doesn't want her to feel like she has to be fun, but it's too little too late.
But I am fun. It has nothing to do with you or your ex-wives or your ex-wife Diane, who is in this room right now.
And though they end the night on a nice note after Diane talks to Pickles one-on-one, the pair obviously eventually split up after an entire saga of proposals and cheating. But in the end, Pickles wasn't the right person for Mr. Peanutbutter. And Mr. Peanutbutter, well, as a serial dater, it's clear that he had a lot of work to do on himself.
What's the common denominator?
Over the course of the evening, Mr. Peanutbutter really tries to hone in on what it is going wrong in his relationships, why he can't maintain them long term.
Why do all these idealistic, vivacious women eventually turn bitter and cruel after being with me? What's the common denominator?
Obviously, the easy answer here is that Mr. Peanutbutter himself is the common denominator. That's the joke, but as Diane points out, it is a little more nuanced than that.
You keep dating women in their 20s.
I do that.
They're not fully formed yet. Life changes people.
And that's something that's illustrated pretty clearly throughout the show. The versions of Katrina, Jessica, and Diane we saw in this episode were not the same versions of Katrina, Jessica, and Diane we knew from their other appearances later in their lives. But Mr. Peanutbutter's tendency is to move on quickly to another partner who is more like his ex when they were younger. Jessica Biel was in her early 20s when they started dating, and he literally connected with a 25-year-old Diane the day Jessica told him she wanted a divorce. It was only a few months after Diane and Mr. Peanutbutter split that he met and connected with a 25-year-old Pickles at Aplenty. He is a serial dater, and he doesn't give himself the time or space to unpack and grow from his previous relationships. He moves on and starts to act the same way he always has without really changing.
Either you date someone older,
or
you grow up, because otherwise they're gonna keep outgrowing you.
Take a look at this shot from the beginning of the episode. The split screen with all 4 of his exes in the car with him. I think it's pretty telling that even over the course of 25 years, Mr. Peanutbutter's expression is exactly the same in each of these 4 relationships. And throughout all of BoJack Horseman, there is only a tiny limited amount of screen time in which we see Mr. Peanutbutter as a single dude. A very small chunk of season 5 in between Diane and Pickles, and then the last few episodes of the series in season 6. And I think it was the absolute right move to end the series with Mr. Peanutbutter not only single, but happy being single.
I've always tried to be an us with people even when I could see it wasn't a good idea. Now that I'm single, I feel like I'm finally learning how to be a me.
Happy writing a book about his life, reflecting and looking back on his own dating life, and actually unpacking his own tendencies.
I know there were times you would try to tell me something, and instead of listening, I just tried to fix it or convince you there wasn't a problem. I shouldn't have done that.
But though it took a while for Mr. Peanutbutter to embrace this self-reflection and experience real personal growth, that doesn't mean he was all bad. The interesting truth for Mr. Peanutbutter is that so many of the mistakes he made were his own attempts to do something that he felt was good for his partner. Every misplaced grand gesture was born of his desire to make his partner happy. And I think Diane really said it best.
And he loved me so much for 10 years. If there's one thing I know about that guy, it's that he loves the person he's with deeply and unconditionally.
Thanks so much for tuning into a Halloween BoJack episode breakdown. Typical BoJack to make their Halloween episode all about unpacking relationship trauma. If you like the video, please check out the video I did on Tuca's relationships and Tuca and Birdie. I'm really proud of that one. And of course, all the other BoJack breakdowns I've done as well. Also comment which episodes you want me to cover next, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Johnny Choo-Choo!